Hello, welcome back to the Matt Phifer Experience. I'm your host, Matthew Phifer, and today I have on a very special guest. We have on Nadia Shamsi. She is out of Hinsdale, Illinois. You may not know where that is. I don't know where that is, but I know it is up in Illinois, and I am sure she's gonna explain to us how far she is from Chicago and those sorts of things. And so she's with SELA Family Law, and we are excited to have her on. And you guys know how we do things around here. I don't bring people on that I wouldn't recommend myself. I wouldn't recommend to my friends, my family, or I wouldn't hire myself. And so Nadia is someone who is very passionate about family law, which we'll get into today. And so Nadia, welcome to the Matt Pfeiffer Experience. Thank you so much for being a part and giving us a part of your day. If you get over to you, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first off, Matt, thank you so much for inviting me. It's pleasure is truly all mine. My name's Nadia. I'm an attorney at SELA Family Law. I formed this firm just a few months ago after having over a decade of experience in family law specifically. Hinsdale is, well, I don't have the exact mileage, it's about 15, 20 miles west of the city of Chicago. My firm practices exclusively in family law. So whether that's divorces, whether that's parentage cases involving parents who are never married who are dealing with either child support or custody issues. Grandparent visitation is a unique thing that my firm offers. I have a lot of experience in grandparent visitation. When folks sometimes a couple years after divorcing need to either modify or come back to enforce certain things, that's what we do as well. We do a variety of matters within the umbrella of family law.
So I have to ask if you're supposed to Chicago if you're a Bears fan.
I am a Bears fan. I know they have not been doing well at all, so, you
They've
I
been
s
rebuilding. They've been putting some pieces together, so we'll see. I wish that they were
yeah,
going to keep
slowly but
Justin Fields,
surely.
but I wish that they were going to keep Justin Fields, but it doesn't sound like they're going to. But
No, gosh.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
you mentioned a lot in your intro, like I something that been asked about, and I didn't even think about asking you about this when we were going through the pre-show was grandparent visitation. I think that's something that a lot of people oftentimes are curious about if grandparents have rights, and I'm sure it's different from state to state. But tell us a little bit about your experience there and what that looks like, and if a grandparent, I'm sorry, wants visitation, and if they deserve it, and if one or both of the parents are trying to keep them out. What does that look like?
sure, sure. So it happens in a variety of scenarios that have led individuals, grandparents coming to my doors. Some of them involve, a parent has been in a really bad accident and is either in a coma or they've since passed.
Mhm.
And the other parent isn't allowing the children to see their grandparents. So these grandparents come in and we file a petition with the court and let the court know they had a long-standing relationship with these kids. They were in their lives, and now there isn't really that parent in the picture anymore that connects these two and
Right.
keep that relationship going. And then I have had, and then I've had a variety of situations where, both parents are living, and sometimes a parent may argue that they have a reason for not letting the grandparents see the grandchildren. So, but the law is certainly while there are certain protections offers to relatives, including grandparents, it's, something that's not on the same level as a parent.
Yeah. What about are there situations where maybe a grandparent might file for custody if the child is going through abuse, or if there's domestic violence in the home, or if they know like of substance use issues with maybe both parents? Is there, and do they have a legal standpoint from that sense, or is how does that work in Illinois?
Sure. So some folks go the grandparent visitation route, or they're
Mm.
looking for custody, which is Illinois doesn't really use the term custody, but they use decision-making responsibilities. So they actually want to have a role, not just visitation, not just time with the children, but
Yeah.
rather being able to make decisions so that them to be a legal guardian. Essentially, they can file for legal guardianship.
Yeah.
That's always an option.
And you have experience as a law guardian, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, guardian
Not
ad
I
litem. Yeah,
forgot.
that's actually
I'm sorry.
how.
That's my
No,
New
no,
York.
you're
So
right.
I used to work in the system in New York, and then we call it the law guardian, but you
Yeah.
said it's the GAL guardian ad litem in
Yep.
Illinois. Um, that's a unique experience that you have that I think that a lot of people, at least that we've had here, really haven't had. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience as a guardian ad litem? I think that a lot of people are always kind of curious about what they're looking for, the conversations that they're having with the kids, and what does that look like from, and what are some things that maybe you're looking for, that would kind of tip towards like what your assessment would be in a situation.
Sure, sure. So, I actually I started as a guardian ad litem. I kind of did
Mhm.
things backwards because there's certain in order to it can vary as time. You need to have a little bit of family law experience in order to be a guardian ad litem
Yeah.
and meet with children and make recommendations to the court. I actually started volunteering when I first got into family law, and I was volunteering with Chicago Volunteer Legal Services, CVLS, and they gave me some pro bono GAL guardian ad litem work and child representative child rep work. That I had the very unique opportunity couple years out of law school to work with children, to meet with children, to kind of gauge what is in their best interest and make those recommendations to the courts. Meet with the parents and kind of understand what their whole life is, what their routine is, what the relationship with mom and dad is like, what they as parents could do to kind of facilitate a positive relationship and just allow these children to continue thriving. And that's actually what made me get into family law. That's what
Mhm.
made me decide, you know what, I want to be more of this. OG divorce is that it was
Mhm.
this GAL work. I really enjoyed working with children and their parents and elbow, and that really got me further into just family law in general.
I think one of the big questions that a lot of people have, at least that I've worked with, is does the GAL recognize when a child is being manipulated?
Yes, the short answer is, they should and they have and they can. It's really interesting. So what I went obviously I went for a little bit of the training in order to
Yeah.
be appointed as a TAL, and this really so when we're dealing with younger kids, especially, the things that they say that you kind of hear the child's voices in them.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, when I'm dealing with young children, trying to get on their level, we're playing Legos, we're,
Mhm.
coloring, we're talking about, them going to school, what they eat when they get home, what their favorite snacks are, things like that. And so when I'm suddenly hearing things like, I'm gonna live with dad because,
Yeah.
or things where a child's literally parents would another can be say about the other.
Mhm.
So you do get a sense of coaching, which
Mhm. Yeah.
means
And what in situations like that, what typically happens is, I know that the GAL doesn't necessarily make the decision, isn't necessarily the decision maker, but I think that a lot of people have felt that they were on the short end of the stick where the GAL may have even seen something, and then the court or the judge still recommends that they live with the other parent, or do you see different things about what kind of goes to that decision making, like what behind the scenes?
yeah. So the guardian ad litem, the GAL's roles is kind of that of the eyes and ears of the court.
Yeah.
The court appoints a GAL because when we're dealing with children, just doesn't have time or it does not have the role of going into a person's house, opening the
Right.
fridge, seeing where the bedrooms are, seeing if there's sufficient bedrooms, seeing the whole lot of it. And that's what a GAL does. A GAL can do home visits. The GAL, it checks everything out, talks to the teachers, talks to therapists if the children are in therapy, does all the, in theory, does all the investigative work, and then presents to the court their investigations, their findings, and their recommendations. And it's interesting that you bring up that sometimes the GAL may make certain recommendations, the judge may take some of them and then go a different way. There's nothing that binds a court to to what a GAL says,
Mhm.
although they do put a lot of weight on the GAL's
Yeah.
investigation, findings, recommendations. But I have seen situations,
Yeah.
and there's some tough ones. Relocation, for example, is always a tough one. Relocation where a parent wants to move with a child 25, 50 miles out into another state.
Right.
Those are some tough cases. I hate using the words winning versus losing because there is no winning in family
Right.
law. There's winning in divorce. There's no losing in divorce. It's tricky and tough and mentally and emotionally draining all around. But when you're dealing with a relocation, let's say one parent wants to move to Texas or
Mhm.
California, that can be really tough because ultimately the judge has to go, all right, do I let them take the child or not? There really is a clear cut ruling that a judge needs to make. And there have been situations where, a GAL will make a recommendation and the judge will say, all right, this is where I would like the rule to. And I've also seen relocation cases where GALs pointing in this direction, the judge goes this way. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. There are certainly a lot of different factors that courts consider with relocation as one of the toughest things. Um, More so than just dealing with what's in the best interest of the children, where there's just down one there does, overrides.
So something else I hear a lot, or something that I think that people have been concerned about, or worried about, at least a lot of people I've worked with over the years, is that the GAL could be swayed by the other parent whenever you're meeting with the parents individually, and that they, the parent themselves, can actually manipulate the GAL to, change their decision or talk poorly about the other parent to a point where it interferes with the GAL's decision. Does that something that typically happens, or is that just some kind of a fear that people kind of have, just kind of overthinking about the process?
I've I've certainly seen clients have that fear, and I've when I meet with my clients, let's say they have a GAL meeting, I say a GAL was appointed, and I'm representing husband or wife. I lay down some ground rules when I prepare them for a GAL meeting. Certainly bad mouthing a parent or trying to get a GAL on your side by bad mouthing or saying negative things. If you're going to spend your hour, 2 hours with a GAL talking badly about the other parent, it's not going to really help a situation. They're going to look at whether one parent is able and willing to facilitate a positive relationship with the child with that other parent.
Mhm.
By spending your time and energy focusing on the negative, really doesn't help your situation as the client and chain element.
Yeah.
And so one of the first things I tell my clients is to stop with the negativity. I always say show rather than tell. If you have concerns, or if you want to if you want to address certain things,
Mhm.
talk to them about the child's needs and what you
Yeah.
believe the child's best interests are.
Mhm.
Um, don't say, well, this other parent sucks and it's not.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's not productive, and that truly doesn't help the child either.
Right, right. Now you have so much experience. I mean, you like you said, you started from the ground up, started out as GAL, and I mean, from what I heard, you've been in pretty much every single part of family law. And I think that because of that, a unique set of people tend to gravitate towards you. And we were talking about it before where, not only do women gravitate towards you, but a lot of women who are going through divorce but are also immigrants tend to lean in your direction. Um, and there's a lot of unique circumstances when someone's going through a divorce and they're an immigrant because oftentimes very, very common for there to be a lot of power and control dynamics. Can you talk
Mhm.
to us a little bit about what that looks like? And, maybe someone who might be listening to this who they're like, I really want to leave my husband or really want to leave my wife, but I'm not comfortable with my status here in the US and what that looks like and just kind of what that looks like from your perspective and from the class perspective.
Sure, I'd be happy to address that. Definitely a unique set of needs that individuals who are immigrants who are not yet citizens or maybe perhaps just hold a green heart, what they go through, the questions they have, and the concerns they have when they're going through a divorce. Um, because there is sometimes this element of control, this element of these fear-based tactics where if you don't do things my way, I could file for divorce and then you'll
Yeah,
have to go back to where you came from. And there's this fear of, well, I don't know the law. I'm not a
yeah,
citizen here. I could go
right.
back. And there have been quite a few times where individuals and many of the majority of my cases have been immigrant women who have come and said, my husband's U.S. citizen. I've been going through this process, immigration process, and now um, I'm considering a divorce, or he has wanted to file, and he's indicated to me that he's going to file, and I'm gonna, my application will be thrown out, or I'll have to be sent back to where I'm from immediately. We'll withdraw my tutors. What do I do? So in those situations, it's incredibly important because I'm not an immigration attorney, so it's incredibly important for you to first connect them with an immigration attorney, but also work with that immigration attorney to make sure that my client's needs are addressed, the concerns are addressed, and and making sure that any questions that he or she may have are certainly addressed then in relation to how does my immigration situation impact my divorce? And
Why do you think? Why do you think that there is so much power and control issues with these type of relationships? Do you feel that people who tend to be, more abusive or manipulative tend to target women who are immigrants to, as a way to have power and control, or um, why is there such like a high, propensity for a situation like that?
that's a phenomenal question, and that's not a good question because I don't know, but anecdotally, what I've noticed is, in the cases where these women have walked through my doors, it has been individuals who barely can speak English,
Hmm.
who had to learn coming here, who, when their spouses, when their husbands married them, these are men who were born and raised in the United States.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is all anecdotal to my
Yeah,
experience, but it's certainly been more than 2 or 3 or 4.
yeah,
Um, that's individuals, men who have been born and raised in the United States who want a spouse from their country, their culture, and somebody who may have their values that they want. And they'll bring them here. The difficult thing is then they expect them to come in and either assimilate immediately or actually, no, I need you to have those cultures and qualities of from my culture that I value, that I want instilled in
yeah.
my future children, perhaps. And so, these women often feel isolated.
Mhm.
Um, they don't have a lot of friends here. They have to learn a language. They have to learn how to drive. If they, I have clients who had never really returned from where they were from, the villages that they were from. And it's a difficult adjustment. And then when things don't work out, then it's all right, I'm done with you, you can go home now.
Yeah,
You don't belong here. And it's really difficult. And some of them want to go back, and then
yeah.
some of them want to stay and want to know what are my rights. And it certainly is.
No, I'm
It
saying
is.
some of them have children too.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them have children here, and then threatening and using this fear-based tactic or this level of control to go, "I'm gonna get the kids because you're gonna go back home." It's terrifying.
Yeah,
It's scary. It's very manipulative, and it's emotionally abusive,
yeah,
and it's scary when you don't know the law and you
right.
don't know what your options are.
And to your
And
point, and you mentioned you don't know the law. You're already steered, and in some cases, English isn't your first language, and so like you're already there's already a translation issue, and so I can see where that would be intimidating because even if you were to look it up, even if you were to Google things, but even if you were to find an attorney, the language barrier becomes an issue, and so I can see where that would be extremely overwhelming for someone who's going through that.
Yeah. And then, and a handful of times they'll say, "Well, I'll agree to his terms because then I won't have to be forced back, or at least I'll be able to see my children. So I'm willing to agree to his terms." And then, I'm reviewing a proposal, they'll fire me out, review them, and go, "Oh, it's not something I'll be able to sign at all. So let's go back and start negotiating this."
Yeah.
And and then being able to be a resource for these women, being able to advocate for them. It's 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 very unfortunate that individuals do this to people that they
Yeah.
were once a loving relationship with. It's really difficult.
Well, I mean, so from a therapeutic standpoint,
Yeah,
I could argue that they were never in love with them to begin with. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
all, it was all maybe the wife, maybe the victim was in love, or was in love with the thought of what they thought this person was, or what the relationship was going to be. And then when that person showed who they really actually were, completely different standpoint. To your point, that person was just being manipulative from the beginning,
yeah.
promising a life and promising a situation that they really never intended on keeping. They just really wanted to have someone at home, taking care of home, they have children. They wanted to, at least have on the surface, look like they had this ideal life, which they didn't plan on actually maintaining. Which kind of brings up a point of narcissism that is highly, highly talked about in social media. And you and I, before the show started, I talked about, I felt like I actually contributed a lot to a lot of this conversations. I put out so much content when I first hopped online about narcissism. I think it was warranted at the time, because it was, right around 2020, COVID 2020. And I think that a lot of people needed that information at the time. I've backed off significantly since then because of a lot of the misinformation and everyone that's just run with it. I feel like it's kind of gone wild in terms of narcissism. And I hear that from a lot of attorneys. But what are your thoughts on that? And obviously we know that it's a real issue, and at the same time, um, it's something that potentially can be weaponized in court, and it's also something that isn't taken as serious in court. A lot of people are always wondering the reasons why. Can you talk just a little just about that loaded word narcissism in the courtroom?
Sure. Well, I'd be happy to. I'm sure I'm not the first attorney to say that
No.
word, and thrown around a lot. A lot. And I think I mentioned earlier, I feel like since COVID, I've heard even more. There's just been certainly been an overload of the use of narcissism. Now, the tricky thing is judges are not psychologists, judges are not psychiatrists, neither are attorneys.
Yeah.
Um, and so unless we're dealing with an individual who's actually been diagnosed with this, and it impacts their ability to be a good parent, which is also
Mhm.
then we have a whole other
Right.
set of issues. But unless it's at that level, we don't really throw this term around in court. There are individuals who believe their spouse to be narcissistic, and spouses who truly do have narcissistic stuff, but spouses, whether diagnosed or not.
Yeah.
But it's not something that is thrown around in the courtroom, really discussed in a courtroom, because at the end of the day, the law, family law in the state of Illinois, because we're a no fault state, that doesn't have an impact for your dividing finances, whether
Right.
somebody's a narcissist or not. It doesn't really, unless it's coupled with some kind of concern surrounding his ability to parent.
Yeah.
If there's abuse
Mhm.
of a child, or alienation, something like that, even that is a whole other ballgame there. This isn't something that is tackled in a courtroom.
Right.
Now, what I find interesting is sometimes there are unique ways to negotiate when there's a narcissistic spouse, and I do think that there's ways to do that. But certainly when we're litigating, when we're talking about an end result, that isn't really impacting how one judge is going to rule on
Right.
finance and the like.
I think that one of the things that people forget is that even if that person really actually was diagnosed with narcissism, clinically went to a psychologist or a therapist and was diagnosed, they still have rights. And I think that's where people there's this assumption that if I can prove that this person is narcissistic, then that means I'm going to be able to get my way in court. And I'm not necessarily saying that that person is doing it maliciously, but they think that it's going to be more favorable when narcissism, just like everything else, is a disorder. And, you know, and ultimately, like you still have rights. A lot of people have different disorders, whether it be depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, or any other disorder, and you still have rights to be a parent. You still have rights to now. What you don't have a right to do is to mistreat people, to abuse people, to control people. And so those are the reasons why it's so important to prove and talk about the behavior, not necessarily the label of narcissism. I think that's where people get it confused.
Yeah, yeah. So it does. I have seen that it does present a unique set of challenges when you're
Hmm.
co-parenting with an individual. But as far as the ability to parent, um, again, that doesn't. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Matt. That
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean your rights to take away as a parent.
Right. Yeah.
Um, it's what can we do to make sure the kids continue
Yeah.
to thrive, and it might be things go on as normal. But again, there are unique sets of
Yeah.
challenges when we're dealing with perhaps co-parenting, communication, with negotiations
Yeah.
during the divorce. But yeah.
How often, obviously, like you said before, you're not a therapist, so you're not diagnosing, but that you would suspect, how often would you say that the cases that you see do deal with a narcissistic personality?
I would say without diagnosis, I do see it quite a bit actually.
Mhm.
It's interesting. At least certain characteristics. Now, does that make a person a narcissist?
Right.
Probably not.
Mhm.
But there's certain qualities that uh my client will share with me, or I'll notice in, mediation
Yeah.
session, or something, something that kind of tells me, all right, we might need to switch gears here
Yeah.
when in terms of our approach to it.
Is it ever that you're the one that is representing the one who is that has a high conflict
Yes.
personality? Yeah. What is
Yeah.
that like?
Um, that presents, I wouldn't necessarily say it presents challenges. I think with all my clients, if there is of the communication trust, first and foremost, um, I this then I think everything works. No matter
Right.
what um challenges or what my client has in terms of health issues, in terms of concerns, so long as there's trust there, uh, we make just as much progress
Yeah.
as any other case.
Yeah.
But yeah, trust is actually without that, it's
Right.
if there's no real representation there. I always tell folks when they come in or they're considering hiring me, I always tell folks, "Well, or if they tell me, Nadia, that the firm attorney has spoken to, well, good. First off, you're doing your due diligence. I always, when you're going through a major surgery, you haven't just go with the first doctor you talk to. You want a second opinion. You want a third opinion. Um, Go with somebody who you trust, who you feel that will represent you zealously.
Mhm.
And if that's me, great. And if it's not, it's on somebody else that they
Yeah.
feel they trust more. But yeah, that's
Or three other
definitely
ones because
what.
I know they bounce around from time to time. You get like 4 different attorneys. So
Oh yeah,
mhm.
that's
Yeah.
a suit. Certainly.
Yeah. Well, Nadia, thank you so much for being a part. I'm going to take it over to you. And if you could tell the audience where they can find you at, if they want to work with you, if they want to, just learn a little bit more about you, what are the best ways that people can connect with you?
Sure. So SELA Family Law, SILA and Sam, IL as in lamb. I wish I knew the soccer. It was about the
Oh,
military
yeah. Uh-huh.
alphabet. Yeah, no, I should have that.
Echo Bravo. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. SELAFamilyLaw.com is my website. My email address is Nadia, Nadia, at SELA Family Law. My contact information is on there. They can reach out on the website via email, and happy to, even be a resource, answer questions. It's always helpful for me to arm anybody with information, whether they want to know their options, whether they want to move forward or not. Information, arming yourself with information, it's
And whether you are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, you can also go down to the description box and you will see all of her information in the show notes, her website, all of her social media contacts as well. And make sure that you also go down to the comment section. Let us know something that you learned in today's episode that maybe you didn't know before, or a takeaway that maybe that you're going to use in your situation, or that you're going to share with a friend or a family member. With all that being said, thank you so much. And also make sure you go to her social media, make sure you give her some follows, make sure you interact with her content, show her some love, let her know something that you took away, send her a DM. And with all that being said, thank you very much. This is Matt Phifer Experience, and I will see you in the next episode. You guys have a good one.